Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my good buddy Clark Bartram. Say hi to everybody.
Let's go. I'm ready, man.
How you say hello to my little friends. I don't have to ask them where the beach is at, because the beach is pretty close by compared to in Colorado. It's a giant beach with no water, so just reservoirs, pretty reservoirs here in Colorado. So Clark, I've got you on as a guest today to, share a variety of different directions that I think will end up spinning. Today is a conversation just about brothers in arms, brothers who are, trying to live up to a model, a theme that's gotten a little distorted in our society and social conditioning. In fact, everything kind of tells you to be soft and mushy these days. And you're someone that really embodies my experience, a mentor, teacher, a friend that really embodies what I see as an example of a healthy masculine frame. And that requires daily disciplines. That requires, the body is I always look at it as like a solidification of all your choices. So you can't hide it. I don't care what clothes you buy. You can't hide what you've been doing behind the scenes and nobody's watching. And so I think, my experience, by the way, guys, like this is someone that I was actually a big fan of when I was a kid. Now I'm making you really old. So when I was just a youngster, when I was like really into fitness, I was a hardcore fitness guy. I was a big jack mofo, and I read all the fitness magazines. This guy was on the cover of all the magazines. And I was like, how do I get a body like that? Like, what does he say to himself? I didn't care what protein supplement you backed up. I was more interested, like, what does this guy say to himself in the morning when he goes to bed at night? What is he saying, when he's in the gym? What's the switch that he's flipping? Like, I want to understand that. And I think today's conversation is getting into that and getting into, you've been in a conversation with yourself, a dialogue that's a lot healthier than the ones that most people entertain in their head, that other voice. And you've developed a clear listening of a hearing spirit, and what's being called forth to be, a clear calling of what your expression is supposed to be in the world. And it's not just a pretty face and a pretty body on a cover of a magazine. There's the reckoning that goes through to display such an embodiment. So everyone talks and throws around new age terminology, like everyone's like, say, embody this and embody that. I'm like, dude, you embody it. And I think once I shut up and people get to hear your voice, they're gonna hear that reign true today. So maybe start this conversation, Clark, by sharing a little bit about. I always like to start off back in time of what it was like, kind of like, how did you perceive the world as a youngster growing up? What was your world like? That was starting to shape you.
Yeah. It's interesting that you asked that question, Glenn, because I was having a conversation with my best friend back in Canton, Ohio, where I grew up. And he was just kind of reminiscing on the fact that he has been there his entire life. He's had the opportunity to travel the world, but he has been in Canton, Ohio, within 5 miles of where he grew up his entire life for 59, 60 years now. And I thought about that, and it was taking me back to a time when my mindset at that point was, there's got to be more. Like, I knew at a young age that there was something more for me than the blue collar lifestyle that was Canton, Ohio. And I totally respect the people who work at Republic Steel and Timken Roller Bearing as a career for 30 years. They go in there and they just bust their ass and work hard. And I completely respect that. However, I knew there was something more for me. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew it didn't exist in Canton, Ohio. And I had to figure out how to get out of there. Like, what was my ticket out? And I realized at a young age, the only way that I could get out, because we were poor, there wasn't a lot of money, I wasn't going off to college or anything like that, I needed to join a branch of the military, and I chose the Marine Corps. And the reason I chose the Marine Corps, because it was the most physical and the most badass group that I could imagine. I remember seeing a recruiter in our lunchroom one time. They were in dress blues, and I'm like, that's it right there. Those guys look like I want to look. And that was kind of the beginning of the process of me ending up here where I'm at today.
Yeah. Yeah, and that yeah, you must have been very attracted to just not the display of what discipline leads to. It was just across the board, like you want to be physical badass, you know, and mentally badass. Like that paradigm shift creates that.
Yeah.
All day.
You know, you don't realize that until you look back in hindsight. Like, I didn't know that's what I was attracted to. I didn't know that that's what was calling me. Like, it was pulling me from the inside, and I couldn't avoid it. And I remember sitting there one day with my cousin, who was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. He was 6 years older than me. I was 17, he was 23. And I asked him, after a full night of partying, we were drinking a Michelob Light, smoking a joint. And I said, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And he's like, I don't know. What are you going to do? We're sitting there at the kitchen table. I can see it like it was yesterday. And
He get older, but I stay the same age.
yeah, he worked at a gas station. I worked at the hospital. And I said, why don't we join the Marine Corps? Because I had seen that guy in the lunchroom. He's like, really? I'm like, yep. He's like, okay, when? I'm like, now. So we got up and we told our girlfriends in the house we were at, we're going to go join the Marine Corps. And they're like, what are you talking about? And we left and we went right down to the recruiting station and started the process. Because I was 17, I needed to get my parents' signature. And my mom was like, spread your wings. She signed right away. And my dad was reluctant. He had other plans for me, which were probably never going to happen. And he relented and he finally signed, and I turned 18 in boot camp, and that was that.
Yeah. What was the hardest like adjustment for you being in boot camp? You know, I guess for you, like, even though, you know, you were attracted to this, what was the hardest adjustment for
Cutting
you?
my hair off, man. I had this long feathered hair. Yeah. You know, it was back in the days of the feathered haircut, split down the middle. It was a beautiful mane of hair, and it was so funny because I remember when they took us in and they shaved our heads, and you had to put your head down on a table. And me and my cousin went on the buddy system, and we both like looked up at the exact same time at each other and caught eyes for the first time. He had a big afro, and I had this long straight hair. We looked up and we just fell out laughing, to the point where the drill instructors came over, started screaming at us. But this was the first time we had seen each other like this. And we were like, what the hell did we just get ourselves into? What are we doing here? That was the nonverbal conversation that happened. It was so funny.
Yeah, that just, I can just feel that craze of just like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? like maybe we should pick, like, okay, what was the other option?
Exactly. We didn't think, we just did it. And here we are now, like, ain't no turning back, bro. What are we going to do? And it's really interesting because he took one route, I took another. Yeah. I decided that I was going to be the best in my platoon. I was going to rise above everybody else when he just barely got by. And he ended up actually getting released early from the Marine Corps for some reasons, but I graduated meritorious out of boot camp. I was the top in my class, the whole bit. And I can remember one time when we were out, and it was called CIT, Combat Infantry Training, in boot camp. And he got caught. He had SCOL, and we weren't allowed to have any of that sort of stuff, but somehow he got SCOL. They caught him, and all the drill instructors said, Bartram, you watch the platoon. We're taking Moraro out here and beating his ass. So they took him out into the woods, and I was left in charge of the platoon. So I told everyone to be quiet, and I walked over to where they were at. And I remember a drill instructor. This is when they could still beat you up, and they did. A drill instructor, a little black guy, Sergeant Rivers, he jumped up, he grabbed a branch, he swung, and with both feet, boom, kicked my cousin right in his chest. I saw him fly back like he was in a movie and hit the ground. I was like, oh, man. I ran back to the platoon, and they came back, and he just looked at me like, I shouldn't have took that SCOL, but he didn't even learn his lesson, man. He did so many other things, and that's kind of why he didn't quite make it the whole way.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you grabbed the bull by the horn, really participated at the highest level of possible. And then when you left, what were you leaving with when you left the Marines? What stands out for what you were leaving even the service with. I mean, because you're I guess America's top model is you and Plitt, it comes from the Rangers. Like this is where they're recruited, but like when you left the service, like what, let's go back to embodiment. Like what was like, hey, these lessons were really ingrained in me, and I'm going to take these as these are the cornerstones for how to kind of conduct my life.
Yeah. Well, it's what you had started this podcast off with. It's discipline. And that's what I saw in Greg Plitt. And that's what I see in a lot of people that come through the military. They come out with discipline. Just to give you a small example, to this day, I still tuck my shoelaces in my shoes because that's what we did in boot camp. That's what you do in the fleet. You don't let your laces hang out. It just looks sloppy. My closet looks like my wall locker. I got long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, t-shirts, certain color jeans, different color jeans, shoes lined up. It's still the same way, however many years later. This is in 1981 that I enlisted. Here we are in 2022. So that discipline has carried me through. I got up this morning at 2:15 a.m. with no problem, popped up because I made a commitment to go meet Mike in LA, drove an hour and a half, trained, and turned around and came home. And I'll take a phrase from the Army, I felt like I did more before 9 a.m. than most people did all day.
Now you're training with the Titan American, was it Gladiator?
Yeah.
You did more than anyone does in a year in one workout.
Yeah, we had fun. And Mike and I talked about that because when we get together, we listen to audio books. Mike's a very intelligent human, and a lot of people don't give him enough credit for being as smart as he is. But we were listening to this audio book, and he said, pause it. And I love to watch him learn things because he is so aware. And he said, pause it. And the guy was talking about delayed gratification. And what we do now is to set us up for later. And he said, this is what you and I have done. You look at all the people we came up with in the industry, we're really only two that are left out of all of these guys that we came up with. And a lot of these men that were Olympia winners and all of that couldn't take their shirt off today and look as good as they did then. And Mike was just commenting on the fact that both he and I can, because we set ourselves up for the long haul, not for the short-term gain. And again, it was one of these innate things that we didn't maybe really know what we were doing at the time, but something in us drove us down that path. Now here we are today. I'm nearly 60 and Mike is heading into his 50s. He's getting deeper into his 50s, and he's in probably the best shape of his entire life, stronger, more ripped, and more impressive than ever. And the guy's an athlete. It's insane what he can do.
So just re-emphasizing that. So the long game gives you the short-term wins. The short-term quick fix, push full throttle, you can be setting yourself up for getting catapulted in the wrong direction. And then you witness it over and over with everybody, to where if you play the long game, you can get all the short-term benefits, but right. You have to create a different type of mindset of delayed gratification and focusing on, which is actually more juicy anyways. So
yeah, I'm still doing that same thing today. I recognized it after the workout. So there's probably 8 of us in this workout, and we're doing shoulders, and Mike has this bar that's on these bearings and it goes in and out. So we're shoulder pressing and it comes in and out. So just controlling the bar that moves like this is awkward in and of itself. So we did probably 3 or 4 sets with no weight at all on just a 45-pound bar, maybe a little bit heavier. And then Mike said, throw 45s on. And I'm like, for who? Certainly not me. And he's like, throw 45s on. So I threw a 45, someone threw a 45 on the other side, and they're waiting for me to sit down. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then everybody, right? They're just busting your balls. It's an absolute shit show when it comes to just getting torn apart by a bunch of savages. Yeah. And I said, you know what? You guys can say all you want, but I'm not trying to lift that weight because this bar is awkward. That weight is heavy. I'm not trying to tear my shoulder. I'm trying to be here in 5 years still looking this good. So I'm going to go ahead and excuse myself and go over here. You can talk all the trash you want, but I'm good. Do I need to take my shirt off for any of you guys? Because I'm going to make you all look bad except for him. And I don't care what he's got to say because he knows who I am and I know who he is, and we got mutual respect. So shut up. And I went and got some little 45-pound dumbbells and did my own thing. And here I am today, not injured, when I could have been if I would have fell to that peer pressure and all of the brotherhood and the camaraderie, like, oh, I got this, No, I didn't want to try and have it because I realized I want to be here doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I'm just picturing you wearing that t-shirt you had that says, don't be a bitch ass dude. I'm just ripping that fucker off and just being like, I'm just going to work out without my shirt on right over here next to you guys. Fuck you.
And that's what Mike said. He goes, he'll pop his top. And I'm like, don't make me do it because I'll do it.
Yeah, and folks that don't know Clark, I mean, show them the abs, buddy. It's 24/7, these suckers. That's right, baby. That's how you roll. That's how he does it. And what I love is that you're out there in the world showing people it's possible too, if they're willing to delay gratification, if they're willing to honor themselves with some sensible, doable disciplines that anybody can do. It's just, there's some reconditioning work that needs to go on. There has to be some, not trying to win it out the gates.
That statement right there alone, Glenn, is gold. Sensible, doable thing. What you just said is absolute gold. And if people replay that when they watch this and apply it to their life, they can absolutely change their life because it is doable for anybody. 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that's what I'm more and more convinced of every single day that I wake up. Because as you know, I wake up every single day to somebody telling me a story of success and how they've achieved this new goal. I just got a testimonial today from a younger guy that I coached, and it's on my Instagram now. And I was sitting there listening to his testimonial. My wife was in the other room, and I was so proud of myself. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm involved. And you as a coach know this as well. And you sit here and you hear these things from people and you're like, why me? How do I get to do this? And the testimonial ended. My wife yelled from the other room, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you do. You're so good at what you do. And I was like, wow, that's cool that other people in my family recognize that. And I know my son hears it when stuff is playing, and he might not come out and say it, but I know in his heart, he's like, that's my dad, and that's what he does. And that stuff wears off on people. My daughter's in the same position. She empowers women. My son works with autistic adults. And it's just really neat to see this energy carrying on to them.
Let's talk about that energy, because maybe what people might say, okay, this guy's just a meathead gym guy, but there's actually, like, behind this muscle and this development that's been sacred, there's this sacred message coming through of spirit that's guiding you, and like, that's the secret sauce. That's the bridge. That's the path. That's the way. That's the energy. And let's talk about that piece, because sometimes when people just go to a magazine or article or a book, and it's like, all right, what's the math? Yeah, there's some math on a spreadsheet that's going to stack up and produce results, and this is going to stack up and produce the thing you don't want. But there's a guiding light that drives these before the disciplines hit. It's before the passion even hits. Let's talk about that, because who better who's been living this and knows this, and that would feel confident speaking this truth, because it lives through everything you do, through how you raise your kids, your relationship with your wife, the way you show up for other men, and the way you show up in community. All the values that have a stronghold in your life comes from somewhere behind the scene.
Yeah. I remember in the Body for Life movie that Bill Phillips did, he said, I don't own EAS, EAS owns me. And if somebody doesn't understand what he was saying, they would miss the point of what you just said. There is a greater calling in a man like that who does something that great. He realized that he didn't own that business, that business was a result of his purpose and calling in his life. He wasn't taking credit for building that empire. He was realizing that he was just the catalyst or the vehicle or the chosen person to be the one that brought that thing to fame. And in the 90s, when we were all so enamored by what they were doing with that company. And as I look at my career, and someone in a podcast or something like this asked me, Clark, how did you get on the path that you're on? I give them two answers. I give them the spiritual answer, which is, this is what I was created to do. Like there's no question in my mind that every single day that I wake up, every single cell in my human body was meant to be here right now in this moment, doing what you and I are doing right now, because this is really all that exists right now, is me and you. Nothing outside of this exists. So I know for sure that this moment was meant to happen with us right now, not earlier when we had it scheduled, but right now, right now.
Not even
And
at
then,
5.
yeah. And then the other part of it is I realized that, and I thought, okay, it's my responsibility now to capitalize is probably the wrong word, but even take advantage is the wrong word, but use that calling and that gift to be a light, to be an example, to be a guy who is attractive to people. And when I say attractive, it's not the physical thing, it's the energy that you spoke of. The energy is what's attractive. The energy is what pulls people in. The energy is what makes someone on TikTok lean and go, there's something about this dude. I don't know. I kind of thought he was an asshole at first, but he's not really that much of an asshole at all, because he keeps saying the same thing over and over again. I can tell he's serious. Like at first I didn't know, but then I kind of thought, and now I'm starting to believe, now I got to reach out to this dude. And then when they do, then that's when the real magic starts to happen, when you get beyond the bravado or the confidence or the energy or whatever it is. And people who aren't ready for it can be taken aback by it. They're like, whoa, hey, whoa, slow down, hold up, man. No, I'm going to come in hot and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm going to, some will, some won't, so what next? It's not my job to get a hold of everybody. It's my job to be here for the ones who are ready to make a decision. And that seems to be working out. So here I am.
Now, I love this. And I think our audience would also love, has there been a time in your life when you got the licks, when you were like, I don't know if I can withstand this? There's a period in my life where I can recall being in front of my tribe of men and standing up and saying, like, just because I'm so fucking good at this doesn't mean I have to do this for the rest of my life. Just because everybody sees me as being this fitness expert and passionate about this, like, I want to do something else. Like, I'm meant for something else. And everyone's like, yeah, but you're a coach. For a while I retaliated, and I'm like, anything but this. I'm going to figure out a way to escape, like a escape pod out of this, and then, the universe kind of like, swung around and threw me in a different perspective, a different energy, a different, a graduation to a different, evolution to a different way of showing up. But it was still like, this is your nature. This is who you are. You wouldn't have chosen those trials and tribulations and those traumas growing up that were melding you into this form and this expression. And I think for a lot of us, we start doing like a thing we need to do, we should do, we must do, we have to. And I always tell people, there's like running right parallel to that is the path that you're lit up. That's like, you're like a chocolate fountain where it's like you're overflowing, everybody can come up and get a cup all day, every day from that. And that's not draining. That's that servitude that my dad talked about in a letter I received a week after he passed away. It was like, you're here to be of service. Like as Richard Rohr, Father Richard Rohr speaks in the second half of life is about, the castles you built up in the sand come crashing down in the second half of life. You're not owned by that identity so much. Now you're here to show up empty, open, here, to serve. I only got so many Wednesdays left. What am I going to do with them? And what's my living legacy right now to express and experience even myself? I'm going to miss my funeral. So what do I want to experience about my impact in the world? So maybe my question, going back to my question, which is kind of, has there been a time when like you've just been like questioned it? Because sometimes people think, oh, we don't question things, we don't have doubt. No, we just share that doubt with a few certain folks so we can have that, that breakdown with.
Yeah. I have questioned it my entire life, because my entire life, even in boot camp, right? They call me up, Clark, you're Bartram, you're a squad leader. Bartram, you're the guide. And I'm like, but there's 60 other dudes. Why me? I'm just this kid. So there was doubt, there was fear, there was like, can I do this? And then you go to the next phase of life. Clark, you're going to be the manager of the club. Why me? I mean, I'm just a trainer. but you rise up, and you rise up just by nature of who you are, and their doubt will always follow you. So now, as each evolution of my life, there's always been that doubt and that fear. And in all honesty, I've ran from it for the longest time. Like when I started really coming into the spiritual part of who I am, people are like, you're meant to be a pastor, you're meant to be a this and that. And I'm like, don't tell me what I'm supposed to be. Like, I want this to be something natural to me. Just because you're doing this doesn't mean I need to do this. So I was almost being forced into a position that I didn't feel comfortable with. And then when I said, fuck everybody, I don't care what anyone thinks, and I started to see the path that was there for me, like you spoke of the parallel one. And it's a smooth transition over to that, because you're already doing that, but you're not doing it 100% in flow of who you are. Like, it's just not, yeah. So when I kind of slipped into this thing, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I literally, I do not work. I don't work. This is not work, but this has an outcome that provides income for sustainability for my life. And I never think about dollars. I never think about any of that, because I realize that it will be provided for me as long as I stay in my flow and in my purpose. And I am in my flow and in my purpose. So I don't doubt it anymore. I am completely 100% where I'm meant to be. And then when I get those testimonials back, like I did today, and nearly every day, it's only confirmation that I'm in the right place, doing the right thing. But as it gets bigger, the fear starts coming on you still. You'll question it. Can I handle this next level? What's sneaking around the corner? You know what I mean? So you start, the same thing is every time we get to one of those ceilings, right? You got to bust through it.
Right.
And we're both
out, you got to decide the level you're going to entertain those thoughts, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're writing a book, you're doing all of this stuff, so you're breaking through those glass ceilings, and there's discomfort in that. But that's where the real growth happens, because now you're at the bottom of the next huge opportunity, and then you fill that one up, boom, and you're like, oh man, I'm crowded here, this is uncomfortable. You break through, and you're at the bottom of the next one. So there's these just levels that we ascend to. And back to your point of this stage we're at in life, some would refer to this stage that you and I are at the sage level of life. We're now looked upon as someone with all of this wisdom and all of this experience. So it's easier for people to use this, I guess, analogy very loosely, sit at the feet and listen to the sage, like this very weathered person, this person that's been around for a long time. And when you're giving the advice, it's easier for people to listen to, because they know you've walked a path.
Yeah, they see the battle scars, and they know that you've cycled through many rounds of being a freshman all over again.
Yeah.
Like, just when I was a senior, I'm a freshman again. You know.
Yeah.
And often people go, why are you addicted to that? I'm like, it's coming anyways. Like, you might as well be like just marching up to the door and kick the door in, you know, because the next chapter is coming. And that means that certain aspects of yourself aren't going forward with you. And there's new skills and new things that you're going to have to operate at a new vibrational level. There's just new rules. Some of the problems are going away, and bigger new ones are coming. And you're not going to have all the how-to spelled out. You just got, sometimes, you know, I've learned with climbing, it's like, you just got to get your next move, and, you know, and then that will reveal the next one. And that's scary, because you got to go out on the ledge. You got to kind of go for it and risk falling, being rejected, looking a fool. You know, I'm doing that with like salsa dance lesson, you know, put it out there. I'm learning how to dance. And it's like, you know, all the maintenance guys, you know, are walking by where I do it we have a beautiful dance space downstairs, the yoga room that I use. But, you know, my buddies are like, hey man, I parked in my car and watched your whole dance. I'm like, oh geez. You know, and all the maintenance guys are like, you know, that's not Latin dance, this is Latin dance. And we have to go out and be the, you know, it's like, you're being with all these savages working out, and you're like, okay, I want to like go for it full throttle, and I'm going to listen to my own voice, my own intelligence, my own mechanisms. And yeah, that's like, it's a game of playing with the big boys. And and also it's, you know, it's humbling on a regular basis, you know, and and the dialogue is constant, like, hey, I got to put that one in check, and I got to entertain this, listen to the more subtle voice of God or spirit moving through me, follow that. And like you said, it's like I'm already doing these things, but I just got in like alignment with my soul, and it was like it just fell right into place. And that was my experience too. It was like, oh, I was kind of manipulating the world a bit, and then I found, oh, there's this, it's the way I'm going about things that needs to change. That's where the shift needed to change, and that was everything. And all of a sudden, it's like inner peace, freedom, abundance. Oh, how do I amplify that? I got a taste of that, of what it's all really about.
Yeah.
And that's,
You mentioned your buddies sitting in the car watching you dancing. How many men are sitting in their car watching other men thrive and grow and change when they really want to get out of their car and come in that studio, but they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, because they don't want to be ridiculed by the person who really understands what this looks like. But that's your next level of growth. You're like, okay, then show me, guy, you know, come and show me. And then he does his thing and you try, they laugh. You know, it's like, I don't speak Spanish, and I attempt to every once in a while. So I'll go on my little phone and I'll say, how do you say, see you later, have a great day, whatever. And then it'll say it, and then I'll see that person. I'm like, okay, now I got to go to that person and actually say this. I'm embarrassed. What if I mess up? They're going to laugh at me. But the reality is most people appreciate an attempt. And even though you might not be dancing perfectly yet, the instructor appreciates it. Those maintenance guys appreciate it, because they're look, he's appreciating my culture. Yeah. You know, this white dude's appreciating my culture. So while they might laugh, they're just busting your balls and doing what guys do to try and make you better.
What they don't understand is that I'm actually trying to learn how to become a dance instructor. Actually, not only am I overcoming the hurdle of I'm a big Mama Luke who, you know, has 2 left feet. Like I told the instructor first day, I'm like, see this, all this, nothing Cuban, nada. And she's like, I know, and you don't even have to move first. And but the way I'm going about my life now at this, you know, I'm 49. This is much bigger than me. I'm overcoming these hurdles, and then I can help that friend in the car and say, dude, come over here. I'm going to show you the basics. I remember going through all these things, and I'm like, it's not that difficult when you got someone like myself who found it really difficult, and I work extra hard at it. It's like, this is bigger than me. If I can face my fears and, you know, climb Devil's Tower, jump out of airplanes, do all the crazy things I want to do, and people watch me going, oh my God, that's crazy. And like you said, they're standing on the sideline going like, if there's a way to do that without the ridicule, without looking a fool, without effing up, without sucking at it first. I'm like, no, embrace sucking at it, and embrace looking like a fool for a bit, and you'll be free. You can have fun, and you can relax into the process, knowing that whoever you're working with, that's why it's so important having a great coach. You can relax knowing, you know, when I've gone climbing and I'm freaked out on a spot on the rock, I can relax knowing my guide's like, you just got a couple moves over here, you're gonna be fine here. And I'm, you know, I'm freaking out and terrified, and they're like, just do this next move here and you're gonna be okay. And I'm like, okay, good. I'll just lean into that moment. I need that outside of me support. It's so powerful. No matter what, even if you're great at something, just to have people in your life that are just saying, go for it. Go for it. Let's get busy. Like you like to say, get busy living.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't, right? There's so many people in cars watching and observing on the sidelines. I play a lot of football, and I'm out there running routes with these Pop Warner, high school, college, and even some pro guys, while I see the other dads who are not even close to my age sitting on the sideline. And I'm like, hey, come out and catch for your kid. You don't think he wants you out here running around and playing, wow, I'm gonna pull a hamstring. Don't run then. Just get off of the sidelines, get onto the playing field, and you'll gradually start doing more. You might take 3 steps, turn around and catch a ball. You don't have to run like you're in the NFL. You just have to get off the sideline and get on the playing field. And more men today, back to your original statement in this whole podcast, they're being kind of emasculated because they're sitting on the sidelines thinking, well, I don't want anyone to think I'm a toxic guy, or I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about me. I'm screaming, yelling, hooting and hollering, having fun, getting busy living, doing my life, even to the point where some dads will say, yeah, you can't run around like that. The safety would kill you. I'm like, bitch, what do you think I'm doing? Do you think I'm out here trying to get hit by somebody? I'm just playing with a bunch of little kids having fun. So what if I didn't run it perfectly? You're the one over there standing on the side. Shut up.
So in our society, what do you think is causing that, and what's the solution for men on the sideline, men, become bitch ass dudes, and are afraid of either the humiliation, or just don't know where to begin, or just unaware that the behavior or the beliefs that they're exhibiting are harming their lives, and are contributing also to the issues we're having with women as well too today.
Yeah.
That if men can, and you've done quite a bit of work in this area, and I think you were just even doing a big deal Sunday. You were on a big presentation, doing some men's work. I'm a big fan of men's work. Men, sitting around a fire, a bunch of men getting honest, getting real, and breaking down and naming it, and with respect and compassion, but helping each other handle our shit. And step up. Like what is, I guess, going back to my question here, which is, what is it that's causing this problem in our society right now that's just growing and growing at such an accelerated rate? What are you experiencing as a solution?
Well, it's belief, right? It's belief that they cannot do something because of their age. We live in a culture, specifically in our Western culture, where we have bought into hook, line, and sinker this idea that every man after the age of 30 suddenly starts on this slow decline to being immobile, unable, non-functional, and all of these different things that then has them believing, if I get out here and try and play, I'm going to kill myself. I got so much joy the other day when I looked on Facebook and I saw a kid that I grew up with. And he is obviously my age, he's 59. And he said, just got done playing 4 games of rugby. And man, I feel great. I was like, let's go. I'm glad I'm not the only one out here doing this, because that gives me hope that there are men around the world that are actually involving themselves in life still at this age, because they've been an athlete, they want to remain an athlete, and they didn't buy into this belief, well, after the age of 50, you can't go out on the football field by yourself in the rain without your shirt on, kicking a football, screaming and hooting and hollering because someone's crazy. Yeah. I'm like, I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I am out here having fun. Yeah, I got my shirt off. Yeah, it's raining. The lights are coming on. I'm waiting for my mom to scream at any moment, Clark, get in the house. The street lights are on. That's how I feel, you know? And that's how every man should feel. And they can, if they stop believing that and start believing that it's possible to have that vibrant and vital and alive feeling again.
So if someone sees that possibility in you, and a lot of other people that are starting to pop up now, they're starting to see that possibility. Hey, we're starting to see it more often now. It's like, oh my gosh, 59, 60, 70, like, okay, I could actually be like having my best years here, really engaged with like, what do you see as the steps? And I guess one, building that from body rapport to the psyche, that needs the mind being set in the right destination.
It's the principles that I teach. It's the mindset, meals, movement, community, and integrity. And if this is what I teach my guys that I coach, and it's mindset first, because no nutritional program is going to do anyone any good if your mind is not set to do that program. So you got keto, intermittent fasting, all of these different diets, all of which will work, but they'll only work as long as your mindset will allow you to maintain them. So it's about sustainability, and sustainability comes from mindset. Movement's the same thing. What sort of movement is going to be beneficial for you, where you're not going to hurt yourself? Are you going to not lift 45 pounds on a bar like this because you know there could be potential danger? So are you going to opt out to do something differently? Yes, you should. And then the community is a huge part. And you had mentioned the work that I do with men and I was doing on Sunday. It's amazing the testimonials that came back from that event. It's just, it blows my mind, because you never really know what's going on inside of somebody until they open their mouth and share their testimony, their testimonial of what happened. And now that I'm hearing these things, I'm like, wow, did all of that happen right here in my backyard around my pool? And then yesterday I spoke on a summit, a single man summit. And it was this woman, the very attractive woman, hosting this thing, trying to teach men what women want. So she even said it herself. Men are being emasculated. Men are not strong. Men are not confident. Men are not taking charge. Women want men to take charge. We don't want to be your equal. We don't want to be, we're not. So this whole submissive thing and all that, people got all of this shit out of context, man. And it's because we're all being so politically correct. And I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about me. People need to understand that. I don't care. Cancel me. And I will still thrive, because whatever little cancellation happens because I said something that someone got their feelings hurt over, I'm only speaking my truth based upon my desire to live out my purpose and help the men who happen to come into my circle of influence. That is it. Anyone else outside of that need not listen to me in what I say. Don't get your feelings hurt. Don't get offended, because if you choose to, that's on you. It's got nothing to do with me.
And I can speak to that Clark's someone that there's nothing vanilla about you. You're Rocky Road. It's like, hey, like, this is how it is. Like, take the sunshine, get some glasses if the glare is too much. But like, I'm going to speak truth, my truth, what I feel, what I embody, what I live. And if I need to be canceled, fine, I'll be invisible over here, but I'm sure as hell going to be visible to people that need me. Amen.
That's it.
How would people find you and get a hold of you, and what are some of the unique things that you're doing in the world these days, as you've kind of evolved your body of work? Let's start there with maybe some directions people can start.
I think what most people are really getting benefit from, Glenn, is my Instagram page. It's starting to really grow and do well, and I'm focusing a lot of my attention on creating great content for people there, because the consumable there is short, right? And that's what people are looking for, short, consumable information that they can take value from. So my Instagram page is just at Clark Bartram, and I do a lot of fun stuff on there. You've seen it, cooking stuff. And
this guy can throw footballs.
Yeah, throwing footballs, all that. And I don't edit any of those things. I don't know why people would think that I waste my time or money hiring some unbelievable graphic FX person in Hollywood to seamlessly cut those things to make me hit those. I just go out there and I put in the work. So it's a lot of fun. And TikTok is another one. It's the real Clark Bartram on TikTok. And if any man is interested at all in finding out about my coaching, they can go to the website maximizedmanelite.com, because my program is more about men being maximized and really experiencing life on a level that is more than treadmill and cod and asparagus, right? Any jackass can tell you to get on the treadmill for 2 hours a day and eat whitefish and asparagus. But my program is less about the fitness and more about the man, and it demystifies the fitness and makes it so much more attainable. So they end up getting fit because they don't focus on the fit as much as they focus on the other parts of who they are as men. And that's what this weekend was. So it's really a good
principle. It's about principles.
Yeah,
it's living by these principles that are giving you a foundation, an operating system for life, a way of navigating life before life hits.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Clark, for being on this in this conversation, and we'll have more of these for sure. And I want to thank everybody for listening, and hopefully you got some great value here. And then just reach out. Stalk the shit out of this guy for a bit, and he's got a lot of really great entertaining videos, and he'll kick some consistent knowledge that is it's pretty reliable, it's pretty trustworthy, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of folks. So thank you, brother.
Let's go. Appreciate it.
Let's go. All right, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Hang tight for a second, buddy. All right, see you, everybody.